And Mr. Speaker, the fact that the president also says Congress set its own red line on chemical weapons use, how do you respond to that?
Well, I think Dave Gergen just disposed of it. The fact is the treaty doesn't require military action. If you go back to the 1980s, Saddam was regularly in the middle of using poison gas, both against his own people and in the Iran-Iraq war. You go back a few years earlier, President Nasser of Egypt used poison gas in Yemen. Nobody said that was a moral case for us. You know, start with the fact 100,000 people have been killed in Syria. A lot of children have been killed in Syria. This is pretty horrifying stuff. But is it stuff which justifies the United States engaging in, frankly, a limited, confused strike against a dictatorship which is not going to be very affected by a limited strike? And if Assad is still sitting there, I'd vote no, but I'd also say to you, if Assad is still sitting there after these strikes, he's going to be in a position to say, the United States didn't do much to affect me, I'm still in charge, and then what do we do?
Fareed, what about that? I mean, you see the president struggling clearly with two different paths here.
I think that is, I mean, Newt has actually highlighted the great danger, which is when you have a limited strike of this nature, you almost yield the initiative to the other side, because if they survive that strike, and if Assad is able to continue to do what he's doing, maybe he doesn't use chemical weapons again, you haven't really won, because you have inched your way into this civil war. You've taken a side, and you're not winning. And the United States can't put its credibility on the line and then say, that's it, we did our 3 days of strikes. After this, what happens doesn't matter. Especially not when the Secretary of State has compared this to Munich. The president has compared it to the Holocaust now in Sweden. When, you know, in order to sell this limited strike, they are using language that has so inflated the strikes and dramatized it that you kind of wonder, won't the action have to catch up with this?
Well, let's talk about this language, because the administration is saying, I don't believe this. I mean, Secretary Kerry said, I don't believe we're going to war. I just don't believe that. I mean, aren't we going to war?
Well, of course we're going to war. When you engage, you know, assuming that this is going to be several days of dozens and dozens of cruise missile strikes, by any definition of the word, you're going to war. And by the way, on the other hand, he says this is your Munich moment, meaning this is your chance to stop aggression by using military action. So you can't have it both ways, in a sense. You know, it's either so dramatic that we have to go to war to stop this naked aggression, or, you know, the flagrant violation of international law, or it's a teeny military action that doesn't even qualify.
Charles, last night on this program, you were saying how ambivalent you are, deeply ambivalent. Did you hear anything today that changed your mind one way or the other?
No, and I think that what I heard today actually muddied the waters even more. I mean, this idea of constantly talking about in language that says, I believe things. I think one of the most striking lines to me, in particular as a writer, is the line the president used. We believe very strongly, with high confidence, that in fact chemical weapons were used, but that Mr. Assad was the source. Either it's a fact or it's not a fact. Either you know it or you don't know it. This idea of constantly talking about what we believe, we have it with high confidence, and that may be as much as they can give with the intelligence they have. However, as the public receiving this, it sounds very squishy. And on the back end of it, what assures us that if you slap a tiger that you don't plan to kill, that it will retreat and not advance? If you go in and you attack Assad and you do not take him out, what assures us that he will not retaliate at some point, even if it's not the next month? Well, also, sometime in the future.
Do you have confidence that this Defense Department, this administration, has thought out what happens on day 2, what happens on day 3 and beyond? I mean, we got involved in Iraq, and there hadn't been any plan. They hadn't really considered the idea of there being an insurgency. Are you worried about long-term planning on this? I think you always have to worry. First of all, you don't know what the Iranians are going to do to defend and protect Assad, who has become, in many, many ways, their principal ally. And they've been sending troops to Syria. They've been sending supplies to Syria. Second, you don't know what Assad may end up doing. I think that once the United States engages, you have a real obligation to win decisively, or you look even weaker and you look even dumber. And I'm very dubious. Secretary Hagel today, if I read it correctly, said at one point, oh, we can do this for tens of millions of dollars. Well, each Tomahawk cost about $1 million. So is he talking about 20 of them, 30 of them? This would be the equivalent of sending a tweet by Tomahawk. I mean, this is symbolic action in a way that's goofy, and you really see it in language.
This is an act of war. For Secretary Kerry to say, I don't see us getting into a war, as he prepares to fire missiles at a sovereign country, is totally misleading language. Firing those missiles is an act of war against a sovereign country.